U.S. President Donald Trump recently issued a blunt ultimatum to America's NATO allies: send warships and commando teams to the Middle East, or else. Speaking to the Financial Times, Trump explicitly warned that if European nations refuse to help clear the Persian Gulf, it will be very bad for the future of NATO. Almost immediately, the German Chancellor's office fired back with a flat refusal, stating plainly that this conflict has nothing to do with NATO and is not NATO's war. That rejection triggered a domino effect. Within days, the UK, France, Spain, Italy, and Norway all issued statements officially refusing to deploy their naval forces to the region. We are watching a structural fracture in the transatlantic alliance play out in real time. Europe is openly defying a direct military request from Washington. The rift centers on a sudden escalation in the Middle East. After the US and Israel initiated military strikes against Iran in late February, Washington is now expecting its European allies to handle the resulting military fallout. In retaliation, Iran has effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, using a combination of drone strikes and naval mines to trap commercial shipping vessels inside the Persian Gulf. This map illustrates the choke point at the Strait of Hormuz. Because this narrow passage is the only maritime exit from the Persian Gulf, blocking it cuts off roughly 20% of the world's entire oil supply. To fix this, the Trump administration wants European navies to act as armed escorts, essentially demanding they sail into mined waters to force international trade routes back open. But there's an obvious logical problem here. The United States possesses the largest navy on Earth. If the U.S. military hasn't been able to secure the strait and restart traffic, a few European ships are not going to tip the scales. The European naval presence in the region consists of a handful of frigates and destroyers. They simply lack the sheer mass required to unilaterally clear a heavily mined, contested waterway. Early on, European leaders tried to maintain a united front. Officials like European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen offered quiet, cautious diplomatic support immediately following the U.S.-Israeli strikes. That diplomatic cover evaporated once the conflict dragged on. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez broke ranks entirely, publicly condemning the U.S.-led strikes as a dangerous military intervention acting outside international law. This chart shows exactly why politicians like Sánchez are pulling away. The European public overwhelmingly opposes the conflict. Recent polling shows 68% of Spaniards, 59% of Brits, and 58% of Germans are entirely against the war. For European politicians, complying with Trump's demands right now is electoral suicide. Politicians actually see a polling bump when they stand up to the U.S. president. But the resistance goes far beyond domestic politics. With a fifth of global oil trapped, prices spiked violently, crossing the $100 threshold for the first time since 2022. To stop the bleeding, the International Energy Agency agreed to release a record 400 million barrels of strategic reserves to manually push prices back down. This exposes a massive structural divide in the alliance. The United States is a net energy exporter, meaning it produces more energy than it consumes and can absorb price shocks. Europe is a highly vulnerable net energy importer, and its economy relies almost entirely on foreign oil flowing freely. Europe is also geographically attached to the Middle East. If a prolonged war in Iran triggers a wave of refugees or sparks regional terror threats, those crises will land squarely on European shores, largely bypassing the United States. And the skyrocketing cost of oil creates an immediate windfall for the Kremlin. High crude prices provide a massive surge of fresh capital directly into the Russian economy. By demanding Europe join a military escalation in the Middle East, Trump is asking his allies to drive up global oil prices, which directly finances Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. For Europe, following Washington would be an act of deliberate self-sabotage. Because of this massive economic and security exposure, Europe's absolute primary objective is immediate de-escalation. They need the region stable, quickly. So instead of joining the American naval coalition, major European powers are breaking rank. Leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron are actively pursuing a different approach. Following India's lead, countries like France and Italy are bypassing Washington entirely. They are attempting to negotiate independent dealings directly with Iran to secure safe passage for their own commercial vessels. By cutting these back-channel deals, European capitals are officially choosing national self-preservation over historical transatlantic loyalty. The baseline assumption of blind European allegiance to American foreign policy is gone. When forced to choose between Washington's military goals and their own economic survival, Europe chose themselves. Trump warned that a refusal to help would damage the future of NATO, yet it was his own unilateral military actions that pushed his closest allies to walk away in the first place.
European nations now find themselves having to actively protect their economies from the fallout of their primary allies' decisions. What exactly is the functional purpose of the NATO alliance going forward?